Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Midnite Snak Podcast. Gonna do something I've never done before. I'm gonna try to ride solo on this one. I think my volume is way too high. Hold on, give me a second. So you're gonna see me looking off to the left a lot today. I'm gonna be speaking a little bit softer today too. And it'll likely be a rather short video as I only have a couple things to talk about and I don't have much of people to shoot these ideas off of. So it's gonna be relatively quick. As you can see from the title, currently I'm an unemployed man. So, yeah, let's talk about it. A couple weeks ago, I don't remember what my last day was, to be honest. I think it was October 20 something. I decided to quit my job of 5 years at Domino's as a delivery driver due to the current management situation of what was going on at Domino's. People were being paid the same, and a lot more was expected of people who were being paid the same. So it didn't really make much sense to work there any longer for as long as that problem would continue. Not only that, I think even in my own life, I needed a bit of a change. 5 years working at the same place is it can be a bit of a downer, especially if you're in a bad job, or at least you're in a job that you're not happy with yourself with, if every time that you tell everybody that, hey, yeah, I work here, that you feel embarrassed. That it's like, okay, I really should be doing something else. I know that, I can do something better than Domino's. Pays well, especially here in Washington. You could probably get paid about, depending on where you work, here at which Domino's and how much the minimum wage is, but with tips and everything, I mean, you can expect some nights to make $40 a night or $40 an hour for that night. Sometimes, yeah, for a 4-hour shift, you're making $160. It's pretty nice. Not a lot of jobs that don't require really any kind of training can you make that much money. So it was really a nice job. Aside from maybe any other kind of tip job like a waiter or waitress, but with that there's a little bit more training, especially when you have more human interaction with other people. But yeah, I'm currently an unemployed man. Now I'm not doing nothing. For the first 2 weeks, I decided to take a break, just because I was starting my next venture. I think I've referenced this before in several of the other podcasts, but I decided that I want to be a truck driver, and in order to do that, I didn't want to overload myself with a whole bunch of work, burn out so much faster, because I understood if it's a 4-week program that gets you from knowing nothing about trucks to be able to legally drive a truck on the road, I knew it was going to be quite a rigorous schedule, because I believe even my driving school that it took to get my normal license, it took longer than 4 weeks. So I knew it was going to be quite rigorous. 40-hour weeks, from 3:30 to 12:30, just nonstop training on trucks, learning about. Currently, I haven't driven a truck yet, but learning a lot of what you need to know as far as getting your permit. But for the first 2 weeks of my unemployment, I didn't have anything really. It was like living in retirement, and I have to say that the defense of some mothers saying that it's such a tough job to be a housewife, it's so hard to do all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of little jobs here and there, but nothing compares to the amount of work of going out there and actually working your ass off to make some money. It was, and I wasn't perfect, don't mind you, but it was pretty simple to be able to do all the laundry, to take out the trash, to do all the dishes, like just doing. I was basically a housewife for a couple weeks while my wife was working, and I could feel so much pressure from my wife, like, yeah, you need to get a job, like, shit. I could feel it. I'm like, yeah, that's probably good to have that pressure, because without it, it's like it's so easy to fall into that schedule of not doing anything, doing whatever you want, aside from the chores that you have to do day by day, which are nothing compared to a job. but outside of that, you're doing pretty much whatever you want at home. So for me, it was playing video games, watching videos, just kind of relaxing throughout the day. Um, but it was really nice for two reasons. One, being able to just relax, take a couple weeks to stop focusing on something other than myself, which was kind of hard because currently at the moment still struggling a little bit with the depression issue, um, still distracting myself from it, and that 2 weeks was really helpful because if I don't slow down for long enough, I can just distract myself, and because I'm so good at it, I do it. I do it over and over again, even though it's not really all that beneficial to me. Um, but if I'm on a break for long enough, I get bored, and when I get bored, I start to think to myself, and that's where a lot of the change that really needs to happen happens. I wish the break was a little bit longer so I could address it for a little bit longer, but I addressed it a little bit. But yeah, those 2 weeks were nice. Only flew by so fast. Oh yeah, the other reason they were nice is I could finally see my wife. She's completely opposite schedule to me. While I was at work, so I was a what is called a closing driver at Domino's, which is anyone that works. You can start really at any time, but it's anyone that works till the end of the shift, meaning you close out the store, which entails doing one of two jobs as a driver, either working the front, cleaning everything up there, or working the back, doing all the dishes and cleaning everything back there. Um, so I did that for a few weeks while she was in her job, where she was getting up at 6 in the morning to start a job at 8, and then she would get back at like 3 or 4 o'clock. So for about 2 weeks there, the only time we'd see each other was if I had the occasional shift where I wasn't closing, or it was the weekend. It was one or the other. Otherwise, she would come home after I left, and she would be asleep before I got back home. So we really didn't see each other that often. So it was really nice for those 2 weeks to just be able to be home once she gets home, and then relax with her at the end of her shift. It was quite a delight, I would say, to the detriment of my wife, because I don't think she likes being the breadwinner, and she does not enjoy, or she didn't enjoy those. Now it's going to be probably upwards of 6, 7 weeks before I'm able to get a job and have a second income flow. But I guess second part to this unemployment is technically a student, I guess. Technically. So driving school to become a truck driver, there's multiple different training programs. The one I'm currently in is called the CDLA, which means that I'm going to be able to pretty much drive everything aside from, I think it's like Class C buses or passenger vehicles, because I won't get that, what's called an endorsement, meaning I can't drive it if it's not on my license. But it'll give me the ability to drive tractor trailers, which are most of the semis you see down the road. They have the main part that has the engine that pulls the trailer behind it. But I knew it was going to be this class. I knew it was going to be a bit rigorous, but in order to get the permit, you have to learn so much about. You have to learn about the air brake system. You have to learn about combinations, coupling, uncoupling. It's just a lot in the first week. A lot of information, I would say. And I've only been doing it for 3 days, and I feel like I know so much more than when I started the first day. And I know that this part's actually the easy part. To go through the skills test, which is the test at the very end, you have to pass 4 different criteria. There's in the skills test, there's a lot of focus on what is called pre-trip, which is basically what you do before you even start the truck. You have to, with the instructor there, tell them exactly what you would do when you're going through a pre-trip inspection. And if you get enough wrong, you fail the test and you got to come back at a different time. It's very rigorous. It's about 4 pages. I would say, I don't know, probably about 6 or 7 pages that you need memorized and procedures that you need to go and walk through and memorize in full detail. And once you get through all of that training or through all that part of the skills test, you have to back up the truck in multiple different ways. And then you have to go through a driver's test. And let's say you pass all of that. Then you'll get your CDL license, and then you can go get a job. It seems simple from the outset. It seems like something anyone could do, but if you've ever gone through the program, or if you're ever planning on going through the program, if you've gone through it, you know just how difficult it can be. It's very fast paced. Yeah, very very much so fast paced. Nothing I'm not already used to. Going through college is pretty fucking easy. I pick up on things pretty fucking fast, so that part's not a problem. I know my main issue is going to be driving the truck. Because in order to get the CDL that you want, you have to be able to drive stick, and I've never driven it, so that one's going to be interesting. Yeah, aside from that, all the unemployment thing. Okay, piece of advice for those who are maybe on unemployment, aside from perfectly good reasons to be, you should stop being on unemployment. It's really easy to fall into that trap, but man, is it hard to get back out of it. I was only in it for 2 weeks, so it was a little bit easier for me to get out of it, but getting stuck in that rut may just soul crush you. I can't imagine being unemployed for any longer than I was. It's easy. It is really easy to be unemployed, but I don't know what it is. You just don't feel any worth in yourself. You feel so useless. Like, why am I even here in some of those moments? And you're like, I got all the time on my hands and I'm wasting it. And if you're unemployed, I would recommend finding something to do. Even if you're unemployed, find a hobby, find something, because it's so easy to just fall into this cycle of doing the same old, and it'll get so boring so quickly and so soul crushing. So I don't recommend anyone become unemployed. And in fact, I would even say if you retire from your job, let's say you're in your mid 60s, right? That's about right, given the times. If you retire in your mid 60s, do something. Don't stay at home. Don't do the same old, do something. Find a hobby. Learn new things. Travel to new places. Meet new people. Go to different places. Because what I think a lot of people see is the second after you retire, the mental degradation of someone after they retire is so quick. Because when you do the same thing over and over again, what you once used in your brain is no longer needed, so your brain just gets rid of it. And your mental capabilities just decline so rapidly. And I feel like that's got to be the same way with being on unemployment. I mean, it's so easy to just not care about learning anything and not care about doing anything. So really, I recommend, and I don't think anyone's probably fucking listening. I doubt it. It's a small channel. I understand it. And because I'm by myself, it's going to seem a little bit more boring. I'm trying to fill up as much of the gap of the live stream as possible without sounding like I'm repeating myself. So it's a bit of a skill that I haven't perfected, so bear with me if you are here. But no one's here, so we're good. But to those of you who are on unemployment, please get off of it. Not for anyone else's sake, but for your own. It's not a good thing to be on. It's not a good thing to take advantage of. It's easy. It's simple. But nothing will crush your soul faster than not working at all. And I'm not saying, like, become a slave to work. That's not what I'm saying. It's more so, don't become so lazy and complacent in your day-to-day life that when you wake up in the morning, you have no reason to do anything that day. You have no reason to wake up. And if you have no reason to wake up day after day after day, that is gonna weigh on you so fucking fast. So I don't recommend it. I really don't. It's nice for a couple weeks for a little bit of a break, a little bit of a mini vacation for yourself, but nothing beyond, I would say nothing beyond a month If you're unemployed for a month or more, not based off of like financial circumstances, such as, let's say, the recession we're currently in gets so bad that jobs become so hard to find, that's understandable. You lost your job, you can't find another one. Understandable. But you should really be fighting for another job. You should be really fighting for something else to do to keep yourself preoccupied. Because if you don't preoccupy with things in this life that may give you meaning, such as work, for some people it gives them meaning, being able to provide for their family, like myself, it brings me meaning. If you can't find something that brings you meaning in life, you're going to become depressed so fast because you have no foundation of who you are, what you want to be, what you want to do. I really do think the other thing in that aspect beyond work is probably, find a community to belong to. I heavily recommend going to a church that, I'd say a church that, you gotta vet churches nowadays, but just go to a church where at first you feel like you belong, but you still feel like there is some code of ethics, that it's not just, hey man, go with the flow. Because if you go into that, there's no structure, you're just in the same spot, but now you're in a group in the same spot. So find a church that has structure, but also has that aspect of welcoming you, and you feel welcomed, you're a part of a group, you feel like you have meaning, you feel like you want to help other people. That is so much better than being stuck in unemployment. So really, if you are in it, don't recommend it. And if you're thinking about going into it, don't. If you're thinking about retiring, please find something to do other than staying at home watching Hallmark movies for the rest of your lives. I would know because I now have two grandparents that are struggling with mental decline. I guess that's a safe way to put it. Because they just kept doing the same thing over and over again. One of my grandparents is now struggling to remember names of grandchildren, and now names of children. And it's a normal thing of life. It hits me hard, being that I really had a good connection with all of my grandparents. So that really hits me hard. But I know why it happened, and I don't want that to happen to anybody else. It's more of a warning sign that when you retire, it's going to be so easy to just not do anything. You're going to think it's worth, like, I worked so hard for me to be able to do this, which is nothing. To be able to, well, not necessarily nothing, but to relax day after day after day doing the same thing. You may think at first that that's why you did what you did. That's not why you did what you did. You saved up all that money to retire someday so that you could focus on things more important than work. You could focus on things that bring meaning in life. Finding that community, such as a church, or raising your grandchildren or great grandchildren, or interacting with friend groups. It should be something more than that. But if you retire and you let yourself just stay in that moment, you're not. Your mental faculties are going to decline. At what rate, that is dependent on the person, but it is going to decline over time if you don't interest yourself in new things, new hobbies, if you don't try new things, see new people, go to new places, try new foods, go to different restaurants. It's like your mind is always constantly trying to find something to keep itself preoccupied, something new to learn. And if you're not learning anything new, your mind shuts off so fast. It's a little bit more scientific than that, but I guess in layman's terms, it basically just starts to shut off because it realizes it doesn't need that anymore. And once you lose it, it's hard to get it back. So yeah, don't recommend it if you're thinking about it. If you're in it, please get out of it. Speaking from experience, it's not fun. If you're a child, you're already focusing on other things. You're already doing the things, or you should be doing the things that I've already spoke about. You should already be going to friend groups. You should already be going through different groups. I mean, for example, just for myself, not to brag, I wouldn't, because it wasn't necessarily always my choice in these groups, but I think I was a part of 4 or 5 different groups from the age of 12 to the age of 15. So for 3 years of my life, I was a part of a lot of different groups. I was not working at this time. I didn't make any money, but I was going through all of these groups. One was Boy Scouts, one was high school, homeschooled, I should say. One, I guess I went to Running Star for the first part of the year. Another time I was quizzing, teen Bible quizzing, and then youth group. But I was involved with more than one group, and I was able to spread out through more than one group. And depending on the week of the year, I was going to Africa or I was going to summer camp. I was always doing something new, going to somewhere different, learning new names, learning new faces. And I think that's what we should do if we find ourselves in that rut where we're no longer working. Either retired, child, or if you're unemployed, find something that brings you meaning, and please find work, because even though the grind is something that we dread, it's something that we need. We need the grind so that we can understand just how much effort we put in to life and to that grind, and the payoff of being able to go to the restaurant with your girlfriend or with your wife, or to be able to go on that trip. It's like, it feels like that trip is worth it. You earned it. So that grind is not something that we should dread. It's something that we should welcome, because it gives us the contrast of life, the good and the bad. If you just have always good, you're going to be just as depressed if you have always bad, because you have no contrast. You have no foundation of what life can bring. So it's going to be very easy to be depressed. Sorry, that was a long rant about unemployment. Sorry about that. Oh yeah. A few weeks ago, I decided to go to an Eagle Scout ceremony for a scout that I barely knew. He was probably just starting out in Boy Scouts whenever I became an Eagle Scout, so I barely knew him. But I went to his Eagle Scout ceremony because I knew that there was going to be a lot of Eagle Scouts, at least, and Scouts that I grew up with at attending, because our Scoutmaster, this was going to be his last Eagle Scouts ceremony officially, mostly officially. So I wanted to kind of have a little bit of closure in that, because I never really got it in Boy Scouts. I kind of just left without saying goodbye, and for me, I start to notice now that not saying goodbye, not getting that closure, affects me more than I know. So I wanted to go to this event, and I did. I went by myself, of course, and I was one of the first people there. I did surprise my Scoutmaster. I talked with him. I talked with his wife, who was, I can't remember what her position was during the whole Scouts. It changed from time to time, but we were relatively close. And then some of the Scouts started coming in, started to, go through the, the memories of it all. It just hurt me so much whenever I saw them have kids. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm not ready to move on yet. Like, some of them had 2 kids, one on the way. One had 1 kid, one on the way. And I looked, I was like, I mean, I'm married, so it's not like I'm completely behind, but man, it's like, how do you guys even have kids at this point? I don't even have a house, although my wife and I are working on it. That part was interesting. But while I was there, I don't know about anyone else out there, but when someone hits on you, there's a few things that go through your mind. One, it's kind of flattering, so it gets, or at least for me, it probably turned my cheeks red. Not because I'm embarrassed, but it's flattering. Doesn't necessarily feel bad, but it also puts you on the spot in a way that you're not ready for it. It just blindsides you, just out of the blue. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to set it up. I can't say, and this is the other problem, are they actually hitting on you? Or are you taking it out of context? I mean, there's certain things that you can pick up on. I'm pretty good at picking up on, but maybe I misread it. So during the event, there were JR, I think they're JROTC. There could be ROTC as well. which is just like a military. If you went through any kind of public high school, you'd know. If not, maybe you don't. But ROTC is a program that you go through high school that sets you up to go into the military. It's just to prepare you for that transition into the military if you so choose. It gives you a little bit of structure and order, kind of like Boy Scouts does for or did for me, partially anyway. So there were those from ROTC, and in that group of ROTC, which I believe there's four, there was a girl in there, and it was so weird. I was talking with one of my buddies, Andrew. He was a little bit older than me. He was probably about 6 or 7 years older than me in Scouts. So he kind of eagled out, is what it's called. So when you become Eagle Scout, a lot of people leave, such as myself, from the Boy Scout troop. So I only knew him for probably about 2 or 3 years, but I knew him well enough. Anyway, out of the blue, just I didn't even see her walk up. She just walks up, and she appears to be nervous. She's like, just go with me here. And just couldn't find the words. She said, just have a conversation with me, or at least act like you're having a conversation with me, because I'm trying to avoid someone. And I said, okay, fine, I'll indulge. I laughed a little bit because that was a bit funny. The introduction was a bit off, so I was like, why are you walking up to me? You don't know who I am. If you wanted to avoid someone, you would walk up to someone that you know that he doesn't know. I don't know why you're walking up to me. I guess I was the only one there that wasn't in uniform and didn't have a significant other on me, although I did have my ring on. But most people, especially her, I would assume, don't really pay attention to that. So it caught me off guard, and I was like, I don't know if she is, but I'll have a conversation. And after the conversation starts rolling, my buddy's still there for a little bit. Just after like the second, back and forth, my friend leaves, which tells me one of two things. Either he got nothing out of the conversation, which is possible, or he left because he understood that she wanted to interact with me. I'm thinking the second one, still to this day. So that was a bit weird for me, because two things. I'm a married man. How to set up that situation is not something that you really train for until it happens. So you're put on the spot. You're having that conversation. She never says, do you want to go out sometime? She doesn't say anything along those lines. But I can tell that she's nervous talking to me. I can tell that she's just overall a little bit anxious. And I can tell the cues of someone typically that likes you. Although it's a bit ambitious. And I don't think that I would necessarily get in hot water for saying this, most girls really don't walk up to guys if they like them. It's typically the other way around, and I'm totally fine with that, to be honest. I think that provides a good structure for men. Men should be the ones to try to woo a girl, and I think that tradition is not patriarchal. It's not sexist in any way. I think that is a good tradition to hold, because the guy should be tied down to the girl. Like, he should be the one to take those steps, that action. And that's not to say that women can't. And I welcome it if women do, but I think following tradition in this way is good. So that was weird. Someone I didn't know, and because she was in ROTC, I knew she was likely in high school. Even if she was a senior, didn't matter. I'm 23 years old. Okay. I would say she looked 16, maybe 17 years old. That's a hell no in my book. So, eventually, after figuring out that the conversation wasn't go much longer, we eventually just went away. But I wish I could get comments. I really do. I wish that there was enough people that watch this to get comments, not just for my narcissism, although that does help. Ooh, what am I doing? There we go. Not for my narcissism for narcissism's sake, but fuck, hell? The hell is going on with my shit? Hold on, sorry. If I'm looking off to the left, it's because my computer screen's off to the left. So if I'm trying to control something and it's not working, then I'm going to be looking off to the left. So I do apologize. What the fuck is going on? What the hell? So fucking weird. Anyway, sorry for all that cussing. I wish I could get comments because it's such it's such a range of emotions. You first have you're flattered, kind of happy. Then you're confused. Then you're put on the spot. Now you're anxious. You control that anxious with confidence, and after you go through that confidence, you go back to confusion. Like you're trying to judge the situation. What the fuck is going on? It's just so much going on so quickly. It happens like that, and before you know it, it's over too. Um, but I think I've only ever had anyone hit on me in that way. I don't know if she was. I really don't know at this point. But sorry, I'm lost my spot. Um, there's only one other time, and this person was obviously intoxicated, and again a minor. Like what the fuck? Like no. It was while I was delivering. The girl fell behind the door. After she fell behind the door, I heard it. I kind of chuckled a little bit. Got to my car, put all my things away, wrote on my receipt. Went to look forward to turn on my car. She showed up to the left side, rolled down the window. She asked for my Snapchat. I said no. I rolled up the window and I left because I understand what that means. I'm not old. I understand that when a random girl asks a random guy for his Snapchat, she wants to snap him messages. I don't know what kind of messages because my wife and I were before the realm of Snapchat, so I guess I am a little old. But I know that whatever it is, they're trying to set up a connection with you in a way that doesn't feel like they're asking you out on a date. And I said, nope, and left. So I've been hit on at least I know once, but otherwise I have not. I don't know of any time that I've been hit on. I know when people have had crushes on me, but not hit on me. So it's a rare occurrence, especially for guys. It's a rare occurrence. But what to do in that situation is weird. I just played it off. Luckily enough for me, I was already pretty. I already got the ball rolling socially, so it wasn't that difficult. But yeah, that's something that happened to me while I was unemployed, which was weird. All right, I already went over being unemployed. Awesome in the short term, but in the long term, man, it is soul crushing. All right, this is something that hopefully I can get Austin and maybe Justin to come on stream with. But we had a Halloween party the day before Halloween, or 2 days before Halloween, Saturday before, and we all decided to dress up. I don't know if I actually presented this on stream, but I'll just present it anyway. I decided, because normally for Halloween, I don't dress up. I don't do shit. And I didn't want to. It wasn't up until like 2 weeks before the party. And this idea pops in my head. A very dark one, but humorous, I would say. Where I would, and I think I kind of ruined it, but I would, for Halloween, have something that has some functionality to it. Not just a costume, not just playing a role, not just going around looking like an absolute doofus in your costume and in public places, which we did. We went to Applebee's and Walmart and all these different areas to make a fool of ourselves. It was actually really fun. I decided that I would be a depressed emo kid that is suicidal. So I got a black sweatshirt. I got black cargo pants that were made to look a little bit more goth. I got black gloves and got fake blood so I could put on fake slashes on my wrist. It was a well thought out Halloween costume. And not only was it just the costume, but I decided throughout the night that I would plant certain things by which I would attempt to, I wasn't actually doing this, and I wouldn't advocate anyone else do this, and I'm not making a joke necessarily of that moment. but plant around certain things by which I would harm myself, kill myself. Um, it was it was actually really funny. I think the way that I ruined it is everyone already knew what was going on before the party had started because I had told too many people, and because I told too many people, everyone already knew what was going on. I think if I just had it between Austin and I, it could have been so much more funny. I think after the first two, they would start to understand what's going on, but because they don't know what's going to happen and when, yeah. So the ways I devised to do it is I had a fake pistol, a fake shotgun, a fake sword that would fall onto like the Japanese did during World War II. If they were to get captured, they would fall on their swords. Fork in the outlet, toaster and water, which I understand it's in the bathtub. I get that. I couldn't do that because obviously Halloween costume and the bathroom isn't open to all to see. Um, a fake bottle of pills, a laser pointer, which I was gonna be like hired gun, but that one I knew that one was gonna be too difficult to pull off, so I didn't end up doing it. Had an actual noose that I tied. Um, it was all completely safe. I made sure every single one of these was completely safe. The least safe one was the noose because I tied it around probably a 70-pound chandelier in our house. So if that chandelier came off, that was the hazard, not even the noose. But that was funny. Um, but the party was something I missed. Really hanging around friends, even if I barely know half of them. It's still hanging around people that don't give a shit what they're saying, what they look like. They don't give a shit, and that's just so refreshing nowadays. Oh, just to hang around people that don't give a shit. So, um, yeah, pretty much throughout the night, not a ton of things happened, but like I said, the ways that I would go around performing that act, um, it was already found out pretty early on, and I didn't know how exactly I wanted to execute it, and I wanted to rehearse it with Austin beforehand, but we were both pretty busy before the party, so it didn't end up working out that way. But it was still fun. I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed my costume. But there was one time throughout the night where our server at Applebee's, and there was probably 11 of us, our server at Applebee's started to ask me for what I wanted to eat or to order. And I look at her, and she starts saying the first three words, stumbles, says a couple more words, stumbles, stops, stares at me. Probably within the span of about 4 seconds. And I went, yeah, I know it's distracting. I get it. Eyeshadow everything. Yeah, I'm still getting used to it myself. And then I said, I'll get this. And she started chuckling and laughing because she understood that I could see what was going on. So, yep, that was the funny part of the night for me. Again, I don't really have anyone to work off here, so I understand if I'm trying to be funny and it doesn't work, it's because I don't have anyone to go off of. It would be nice to have comments, though. It really would. It helped me out a lot because if I'm answering comments, it actually helps me. I like answering questions about either people's problems or what's going on in their life. I'm totally fine with it. Or just congratulate someone about what happened on in their life. It'd be really nice. I can't wait for the. Sorry, I can't wait for these streams to get it. They would only need to have like 10 people on that comment regularly, and it'd be so much more fun. Just to answer those questions throughout the night, it would be a lot of fun. I think between the time of like 100 and 1,000 subscribers is going to be the most fun. Everything after 1,000 subscribers, it's going to get to the point where all of the comments are so muddled that there's so many of them that you can't get to everybody. There's so many like bot accounts that are just spamming all the time. That part's gonna suck. I'm not gonna like that part. And then not only that, but the added pressure of making sure that you're doing it frequently enough, making sure that you're making people happy with your content, that you're not going too far away. I think between 100 and 1,000, it's so much easier to stay true to yourself because like that's what we're doing here. But the second you pass that 1,000 mark, I feel like it's gonna be a little tough. I understand that's a low subscriber count, but that's just how I feel. This is also something that I wanted to bring up whenever Austin was here, but That was a few weeks back, actually. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. Someone caught the largest freshwater fish. It was a 6,000 pound sunfish. For those of you who haven't watched, and probably no one's watching now, but that's totally fine. They can watch later. Um, Austin and I are pretty somewhat into fishing to the point where we try to see what the largest fish of everything is, and the species of everything, and when to go fishing, when we go fishing, what we catch, that kind of thing. We enjoy it as a hobby, but 6,000 pound sunfish is massive. Uh, Still not as big as your mom. Oh yeah, there's something going on. I started again a few weeks ago. It's uh, kids right now. It's basically like the reverse of whatever COVID was doing. So it seemed like the pattern for COVID was it was affecting the lives of people over the age of 60 a lot more than it was affecting the lives of anyone under the age of 60. And kids seem to be relatively unaffected by the virus itself, either being asymptomatic or just relatively low death rate, less severe symptoms. So the younger you were, the better off you were going to be during the pandemic at a time where we didn't really have anything other than the whatever you can call the procedures that occurred, the masking, the six, whatever. But what seems to be happening now is there's an opposite effect. And I think this is likely due, but not solely due, to shutting down the schools for as long as they did. I think everyone who works in any kind of field that involves children, schools or preschools or daycares, understands that you're going to catch so many bugs all of the time because kids are little germ factories. And because of that, while they're in school, their immune systems are building up over time because as they catch more bugs, their immune system gets is able to fight off that bug. They get another bug, immune system fights off the bug. Hopefully, never getting the bug that ultimately the immune system cannot fight. You never want that. That's not the goal of the immune system anyway. But now, I think with shutting down the schools for as long as we did, almost 2 years, where kids are at home, they're isolated, they're not around each other anymore, and now they've been released back into you could call it the wild west of school. Now there's a respiratory virus that's going around that's really affecting children. RSV, which hold on, I wrote it down. Respiratory syncytial virus. So if you have kids, I'm sure you already know this. If you don't have kids, I'm sure you don't, because it's not really something that's going around as far as in the media. You think that alarm bells would be going off. Some have been going off, but if you ask the people around you, like, have you heard about RSV? And most of them would say no. So everyone knows about COVID-19 at this point, but no one knows of RSV, and it affects kids at a much worse rate than it affects adults, which is unfortunate. I think it could have been from that contributing factor as far as, should we have had kids out of school for this long? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, you would think being homeschooled, you still interact with other kids through other groups. For myself, as an example, I was homeschooled from the ages of 9 to the age of 15. And during that time, like I said, I was in Boy Scouts, I was in youth group, I was in church, I was going through teen Bible quizzing. I was still around all of these kids that were around other kids. It's not like I wasn't still able to build up an immunity. It wasn't that I was cooped up in the house for years. It's not how homeschooling works for the most part. Homeschooling kids, don't get me wrong, can be a little socially awkward, such as myself, but can be a little socially awkward. But I would still say, as far as faring better in educational brackets, homeschoolers are going to do or outperform public schoolers all day, every day when it comes to academics, academic grades, academic averages. Homeschoolers are going to do better, and I think there's multiple reasons as to why. Not only can you not escape punishment if, God forbid, you don't do your homework, but you are on your own track. If you are on your own age, let's say for me, for my own age, there's no one else in my age group. I had to go at my own pace, which meant I could go really, really fast if I wanted to, or if I could go really, really slow, so long as I finished out at the end of the year. I was not tied down to someone who couldn't learn as fast, and I wasn't restricted by, or I wasn't forced to go faster than I'm comfortable with. Because while you're in homeschooling, you go at the pace that you really set for yourself. And if it's too slow, sure, you're going to have to go a little bit faster than you want, but you set the pace. And I think because you're able to set the pace, you can learn a lot more things quicker because you're not worried about being the slowest or being the fastest or being, drawn to the front or drawn to the back. It it doesn't matter because when you're homeschooled, you go at your own rate. Especially for the last few years of homeschooling for my family, it was primarily online, which actually set me up pretty good for what happened during COVID. Oh yeah, this also happened a while ago. A lot of the things that I wrote down are going to be things that happened a while ago. I will apologize. We really haven't been streaming all that frequently. That's probably my fault. Um, because of my trucking training that I have to go through, which is between 3:30 and 12:30, I haven't really communicated a lot of what's going on with that, if whether or not I'm ready for all of this. So because I haven't really set out communication with either my brother or Austin, a lot of the ball hasn't been rolling. So yeah, I'm sorry that we've been gone for a couple of weeks. I'm going to try to supplement as much as I can each week. If we're not able to meet together, just being by myself. If you don't like that, please let me know, because I don't want to sit in front of a camera for an hour, let's say, because I'm going to be able to go through this pretty quickly. But I don't want to sit in front of a camera for an hour talking this way without having some kind of interaction with somebody else, if that's not actually something somebody wants to watch. So I would prefer having Austin here with me and Justin here with me. For those of you who haven't watched, Austin is my best friend. Justin is my brother. Justin typically controls what goes on the computer screen behind the scenes, and then Austin and I are typically talking to you. There's a little bit more that goes on behind the scenes that I do a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. Not only because I have time, but I really wanted to dedicate myself to this. And one problem that I know facing as far as this channel is we all have different schedules and we all have different ideas of what we want for the channel. So because of that, I don't want to put so much of my work out there and dedicate so much time to this that I don't want anyone else to feel like I'm doing all of this, and I don't want to burn myself out and become to the point where I become bitter or sour about what's not going on from Austin as far as work, or from Justin as far as work when it comes to the channel. So I started slowing down a lot, and because of that, a lot of the content has been slowing down. The amount of streams that we've been doing, when we do the streams, how often we put out edited videos, completely stopped TikTok. Let's see, there's something else. I can't remember what it was. Most of the edits that I do are because it's required, i.e. showed my address on accident, which that was embarrassing. But I had to go through and edit that. That took a little bit of time, but not that much. So I've been stepping back because before I dedicate so much of my time to this, I have to know that, both of them have my back. Both of them are gonna step up with me and involve themselves with this. And until that happens, I'm just gonna limit myself in that. And I know I'm kind of cutting against that here by speaking, but yeah. And I don't want to bring up the whole what I do versus what they don't do. It's not important to me. I just really want to see this channel grow. I want to see this channel succeed, because I really do enjoy this. It doesn't feel like that much work to me. It feels like something that I enjoy. It feels like something. In fact, it reminds me of a memory I had. I remember growing up, because I was such a talkative little fucker. My mom wouldn't call me that, but my mom in almost every social gathering would say, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to become a pastor because he just loves to talk. And also because I wasn't afraid of going out in front of a group of people. So, love to be the center of attention. That's always a good sign. um, but no, I really do enjoy it. I really do. Being able to sit down in front of a camera and talk. And what would actually bring me much more joy out of this is not even having any content, just answering people's questions in a way that I can see it. Whenever we had, I think his name was Hillbilly, whenever we had him on, that night was awesome. I loved that. I loved the interaction with someone halfway across the country. We could crack jokes during it. We could run whatever we wanted to run during that. But just having that interaction and comments, I think that part brings me a lot of meaning in life. So I really do enjoy doing this, and I really do want it to grow. But I can't be the only one to do it, unless, of course, there's some agreement as far as the arrangement of whenever we do get monetized, what's going to happen there. It's like, if I was the only one to build it up to that point, it's like, okay, then what is the agreement going to be on as far as who gets what? Like, do we all get a even split cut, even though I've been doing all of this to set it up? Or is it going to be where I primarily have the channel, but I basically employ them? I don't know what's going to go on. I haven't had that conversation yet. I probably should. Because right now, I know Austin, from what he says, he really does want this to be more than just a hobby. He really does want to dedicate his time to it. He really does want to dedicate to it. I understand he's very busy. And my brother, he sees it more as a hobby, which is perfectly fine. I'm totally fine with that. But I just can't dedicate all of my effort toward it if I don't know what's going to go on. And I don't ever want to come to that point where it feels like the work that I do was taken advantage of. I never want to get to that point. You sour relationships so fast if you get to that point where you felt like you put in all the way. Like I say, with a group project, let's say you did all the work in the group project, you all get good grades, but they didn't do anything. It's like you're going to have a sour relationship after that because you put in a lot of hard work. You put in basically your soul into it, and they got to write off like it was nothing. It's like, that sours relationships very quickly. So with this channel, I want to be able to do one video a week, and I want to be able to do it with my brother, and I want to be able to do it with Austin. I really do, every week. But right now, I don't know if that's going to be obtainable because, we now have different jobs. We have different schedules. We have different lives. Austin has a girlfriend. Justin has a girlfriend. I have a wife. And the dynamics of having a girlfriend versus a wife are completely different. The amount of time that you have to be with one another is going to be so much higher than when you're married. And it's not to say that when you're married, the love goes away. It doesn't. It forms into a different kind of love where you understand you're going to be with each other forever, and you're infatuated with one another, but you understand that in life you're going to be apart. So the eagerness to always constantly be at each other's side goes away over time. So I understand with having a new girlfriend like Justin has, or having a girlfriend for about 6 months to almost a year, Austin's had. I understand that the dynamics are different. You want to dedicate your time to the other person. I get it. And because of that, I also understand that this is going to take a back seat, which I'm fine with doing. And it would be nice to see some growth. If we saw some growth, I think it would change Justin's mind as far as hobby or not, like change it into a job. And I wish we could have this be the way that we make our money, because I think all of us would enjoy that. But being that we can't just be on unemployment while working to build this up, it could take 3-4 years before you build up a YouTube channel in that way, if you're always constantly dedicating your time to bringing out a video, editing a video, having at least 5 videos or at least 3 videos a week, being consistent as far as the time you release them, all that kind of stuff. That takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It's a job. Really, it probably takes 40 hours a week. If I did it all by myself, which, that would be difficult. It would probably take about 40 hours a week. You're talking about a video. Filming the video is the easiest part. Live streaming is pretty easy. For those of you who may or may not want to start your own, it's up to you if you do. But there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes. You have to set up all the equipment, lighting and everything. After you do it for the first time, it's really not that bad unless you're moving somebody somewhere else, a different room, whatever, you name it. But you have to come up with material to talk about, which, as you can tell by tonight, I don't have that much. I actually do, but I'm going on this tangent. You have to come up with topics that you're going to talk about that are relevant to your channel, which to this channel, it's hard to find what relevant means so far because we're relatively small, so I don't know yet. So far, it seems like we talk about a lot what's going on in our lives and kind of talking about pop culture, which I imagine is okay for most people to listen to. I understand it's long-form content, which is seemingly going out the window. Most people aren't watching it. They're watching TikToks and things that only last 60 seconds, which is interesting to me. Anyway, but there's more that goes on behind the scenes when making a podcast. You have to set out a time slot that you're going to film. You have to fill out information that you want to talk about, topics you want to talk about and discuss, questions you want to go over, let's say a video you want to watch. And then after you come out with all that information, let's say we're not doing live streams, we film it. After you film it, you have to then edit the video. Editing, just doing a rough edit of, let's say you shoot for about 45 minutes and you want to edit that down as a rough edit down to 20 minutes. That can take upwards of 1.5 hours to do. To take a 45-minute video and crunch it down into 20 minutes. And that's the rough edit. After doing the rough edit to fix that up, and of course it gets faster the more you do it, but just speaking from experience. And then after you go through all of that, you got to set a thumbnail, which takes time to make. You have to organize everything and direct it in such a way that when you produce it, when you release the video, it has all the descriptions. It has the ability for people to comment. You've labeled it the correct way. From start to finish for a video, for every minute that you watch, likely, I would say 4 minutes have been dedicated to pre and post video. So if a video is 10 minutes long, it likely took, actually I would say more than that, probably 10 minutes for every minute. So let's say it's a 10-minute video. It likely took 100 minutes, which is about an hour and 40 minutes to produce that video of total man hours. So if you have one person, that's an hour and 40 minutes, but for two people, it might be a little bit less, but it's still the same number of man hours. It takes a long time to actually make content. Live streaming, not so much, because you don't have to go through the thing with editing. And that's why we decided to do podcasts at the very beginning of this channel, is because we understood that trying to make edited content, although is going to trigger the YouTube algorithm and make your channel grow much, much faster, it involves steps that take a lot of time. And if you're not dedicated to it, we just wanted to start off slow. And we did. And then I tried for a few weeks to do some of the editing, and I was a novice, as you can probably tell if you've watched the TikToks or if you've watched some of the montages with edits in them. The only thing I really know how to do is to cut up a video, cut out spaces in time to splice a video. That's pretty much it. And it shows. I don't know how to do the whole YouTube zoom in on the face while you look at a different camera, and I don't really care to know. Because I would prefer doing the live stream content at first, build up the channel that way, and then maybe one day, dreaming, I guess, the channel becomes large enough that we all take it seriously. We can quit our day jobs and we can dedicate all of our time to YouTube. Difficult to do, but it would be somewhat of a dream job, I would say. I think. I think it would be a dream job to be able to do this every single day. Quit my day job, which, haha, I don't have a job right now, but let's say I'm a truck driver. Quit my day job, they quit their day job, and we're just able to do this, make enough money to support ourselves and our families. That would be the dream. That would be the dream, because that would bring me, at least it would bring me meaning to be able to help people that are struggling, especially if we're talking about comments, help people that are struggling, bring about content that helps relieve people of pain of life. I would love that. But also be able to do this in such a way where you're having fun. That would be the dream. And be able to do it with more than just Austin, my brother, and myself, and be able to bring more people into it whenever we get larger. That'd be great. I would love that. And collaborate with people that we know from YouTube and all that kind of stuff. It would be so much fun. Anyway, there was a woman a few weeks ago. She was attacked by a bear in Leavenworth because she decided to get too close to it. It seems to be recently that, I think it has to be one of two reasons. One, public schooling is dumbing down people. And the other thing is, I think people's perceptions of what animals do and what they are so cartoonish and personified that they think they can just walk up to a bear, or they can walk up to a bison or an elk, and that's going to be totally fine. They're not putting themselves at risk. I just don't know how it has increased so much in the last 10 years. The people have become so dull, and I'm not saying everybody, and not the people watching this, but how have people become so dull, some people, that they think it is going to be totally fine to get out of a car when there's a 1,400-pound bison staring them down? I don't get it. I mean, we've all seen the videos of what happens when a woman gets launched by a bison, or stomped by an elk or a moose, or mauled by a bear. There was a woman that was recently attacked by a bear in Leavenworth, Washington. Leavenworth is a very quaint, stylized town. It's kind of not Bohemian, Bavarian. I think it's the right word. Kind of like a German-esque, small, maybe Swiss town in the mountains. It's a very themed place. It's a tourist spot, and in most cases there's a lot of snow up there, but in the summer not so much. But a woman got attacked by a bear, and I don't remember the full details because it was a few weeks ago, but just at any point where you're around a bear, you should immediately have your guard up. And depending on the bear, and depending on its actions and what it is doing and where you are, there are only a few things that you can do to ensure that your own life is not in risk. Keep your distance, for one. Two, if they spot you and they start walking towards you, you don't start running. In any instance, and I assume most of you are bright enough to know this, but if you're out in the woods, let's say there's a cougar, right, and you see it. If you see the cougar, likely it's not going to attack you, because cougars pounce on their prey to kill them. They snap their neck to prevent injury on themselves. So if you see it and it isn't stalking up on you, then you should be fine. Most cougars are afraid of human beings anyway. We're rather large in comparison. We probably weigh about 1.5 times most cougars. Not all of them, but some of them. Or mountain lions, whatever you want to call them. The worst thing you can do when you're around a predator is to run. And there's a reason for this. It's called, I believe it's called the prey instinct. I'm not sure if that's the word for it. But it's an instinct by which a predator, if it sees something running away, it immediately marks it as prey and chases after it. So the worst thing you can do when around a predator like that and it spots you is to run. Worst thing you can do. And there's reasons why. A bear may look unassuming in its presence. It may look really slow. A bear can outrun you. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what distance. It can outrun you. Some bears can run upwards of 40, 45 miles an hour. The fastest human alive, top speed marked at 28. Most human beings, I would say, most men, probably the average is around 12, 13 miles an hour as far as running speed. And then women are probably just slightly below that, maybe 10 to 12 miles an hour, depending on age brackets, whatever you name it. But you're never going to outrun a bear. And if the bear is really, really large, you might be able to hide up in a tree, but there is no guarantee you're getting away. So I don't understand. I don't understand how you could be. I just don't get it. I think people have sat at home for too long watching the Nature Channel, thinking so highly of these predators that they're not going to attack humans. They can't attack humans. Humans are on top of the food chain. All the animals know this. They don't attack humans. And surely that's true in some species, but you're food like anything else. If a predator is deprived of food, they will go to any lengths to consume. So don't think that you can just go out into the wild and be next to a bear and it'd be totally fine. It should scare the shit out of you to see a bear. Sure, it has cute little ears, but those teeth are not very cute. Not only that, it's not just the teeth, but a bear can kill you in a single swipe of its paw. Its claws, I should say, are long, very long, and those paws are powerful. They'll rip your flesh like nobody's business. Can opener almost. Not like the twisting can opener or the bzzz can opener, but like the old-fashioned on-pocket knife can opener. But yeah, this thing got to me. Again, it's been going on for a lot longer than this, but several European companies have been installing inside of their vehicles microtransactions, as we'd like to call them. Those who play video games, you perfectly understand what a microtransaction is. You buy a video game, it's $60, right? Let's say it's, I don't know, NFL, not NFL. Yeah, NFL? Madden NFL. Buy the brand new one, $60, $70. In order to play online, which most people buy that, the reason they buy that game is they want to play online. In order to play online, you need certain characters. In order to get certain characters, there's two ways to get them. You either work for them, which takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and a lot of tears, really, because you're always facing teams of people that have purchased, which is the second mode, purchased certain things. But instead of keeping in the video game aspect of microtransactions, where you have to purchase small things within a game you already own in order to progress further, now, which EA took to the fucking max, and that was a big issue a few years ago, car companies have taken that strategy. So even though a car company installs its own hardware, meaning, let's say, heated seats, the seats already have the function to heat your ass. They can already do it. And instead of being able to push a button for it, you don't have it because it's on a screen. You can purchase a brand new car that has the hardware for a heated seat, but in order to activate the heated seat, you have to pay a subscription for the heated seats. You own the car, the hardware is in the car, but you still have to purchase it's crazy. It's crazy. You own the car, and I think this is a bigger issue that some people don't even know about, because I involve myself with so many different things, the realms of politics and computer hardware. I forgot his name. Louis Russman, I believe is his name. He compares laptops, and he was against Apple for quite some time, so I started watching him and seeing what he had to say about it, and you know how Apple it keeps developing things to make sure that you can't repair your device that you own, and that aspect, as well as the political aspect of not being able to, right to own really right to repair. All of this issue is going on, and the mechanics are now coming up with this issue where John Deere as a company requires that you have to take in what you own to John Deere, and you do not fully own it by their metric. So the ability to own something such as a car is starting to be completely taken away from people. And your view on it, I guess, is up to you, but I would say that that's a negative. Like, being able to own a car is free. There's freedom to it. And I understand these are higher end cars. That's where it starts, and then it goes down into lower end cars. And you can argue that, let's say, heated seats, right? And you live in, I don't know, an area where maybe it dips below 40 degrees for 4 months. So you purchase the subscription, which all of us know when you purchase a subscription, it's much easier than when you end one. But let's say it's just as easy to begin as it is to end. So you just pay for those 4 months. And let's say it's like $8 a month. Okay, that's not that bad. $32 a year, right? For heated seats. You didn't pay for them at the beginning. You didn't get upcharged the $1,000 for it, right? So maybe in the long run, that's the best way to go. It'll just keep going further down the road to where you don't even own your car anymore. It's just a lease. You can't even purchase it. If you do purchase it, you don't own the car. You don't own the software. A mechanic can't fix it because they can't hook it up to an OBD2 port because it doesn't have an engine, which is a problem in Teslas, by the way. The only people that can really, not the only people that can maintain the vehicle or provide maintenance for the vehicle, or a mechanic can service the vehicle, but they can't scan it unless they're at Tesla, because Tesla has its own proprietary system by which you can, by which you can scan it for problems, and determine what's going on with the car. For everyone else's car, if you drive a gasoline vehicle, there's a little port, of course, most modern cars, there's an OBD2 port that's been required for all internal combustion engines that you can plug in a computer to do diagnostics. You can't do that on a Tesla because it's technically not an internal combustion engine car, because there's no regulation on it. Guess what Tesla does? In order to repair your car now, in order to get it fully repaired and diagnosed, you have to take it to a Tesla dealer. And anyone who has ever dealt with doing a repair at a dealership, you're going to know that that is the highest price you're going to pay in the industry when it comes to repairing your vehicle, compared to mechanics, compared to doing it yourself. The most expensive thing you can do is go to a dealership. They're going to surcharge you on every fucking thing they can. If they can charge you $1,200 for a random muffler you don't fucking need, they will fucking do it. Because they have overhead, they need to make money. And that's the way that they make money nowadays. They don't even really make as much money, or before COVID, they didn't make as much money on the sales of vehicles. They made more money on the sales of servicing the vehicles than they did selling the vehicles, which showed, because now it's charged with like $230 an hour, something ridiculous, to work on your car. So if, let's say it takes 3 hours for your car, you're paying $690 for 3 hours of work. It's like that's more than surgeons make in an hour. It's ridiculous. So yeah, anyway, it just, if you want the right to own your car, you should really fight for it, because these companies are they're facing backlash, but they know if they just increment it a little bit more slowly, nobody's going to pay attention. So if you want to make sure your car is going to be owned by you in like 20 years, push back, because that's the only way you get these companies to stop. I won't go over that because that was a while ago. That was also a while ago. Oh yeah, there's one thing that I wanted to talk about, and I knew it was going to be quite a topic to go over. I think I'm going to end this stream at about 1 a.m. So I may go over it if I'm not paying attention, but I'm going to shoot for 1. I'm reading, that's why I'm looking over to the left. The title of this article just caught my attention. It's good for whoever wrote the article. That's the whole point of the title. But I've been seeing more and more articles about this lately, and I think it involves the same people. The title reads, I had an orgasm during labor. I didn't want it to stop. Um, for just think about it, right? Giving birth, I can't do it. But let's say you're a woman. Rare on YouTube, I know. But you're giving birth. It says a lot about someone, and I understand that they're going through training, and in doing this, it may be a way that you no longer require any kind of medication, pain medication for childbirth. Maybe it's the most non-invasive way of doing it, or least invasive way of doing it. Sure, that's good. But maybe don't say, so that your child can read it a decade from now. Maybe don't say, I didn't want it to stop. Because now that makes it sound like you're so fucking horny. And this has been a Family Guy joke before about Quagmire's mother, put the baby back in, of orgasming while giving birth. Maybe keep that to yourself. Just saying. Because your kids are eventually going to read that. They're going to eventually figure that out. Probably going to figure it out by you, because if you're going to go to the public with this, you're going to tell your child. Totally fine if you do that. I wouldn't even necessarily advocate against it. Do whatever you can to reduce the pain. Good for you. Maybe don't tell the whole world that you didn't want your childbirth to stop because it felt so orgasmic. That makes you seem like a sadomasochist in one way, and it also makes you seem, the whole idea was so crazy to me, and I really wish there was Austin here because we'd play off each other. Just think about it, right? I try to picture my mind as the doctor, right? You're dilated 10 centimeters, which means your cervix is dilated 10 centimeters, which basically means the baby's head is crowning, which means that the top of the head is coming out of the cervix, and the baby is pretty much ready to be guided out of the birth canal. The nurse or whoever's standing by the side of the mother, as well as the father, sometimes, if he hasn't already passed out, telling her to breathe and to be calm and to remember to breathe and to push and all this kind of stuff. And you as a doctor, right? Your hands are partially inside of the mother. And you hear, oh God. I feel like as a doctor, you would question your entire, why am I even here? Why did I go through all this? You're doing what? You're orgasming right now when you should be in so much fucking pain. I would start questioning the habits of this woman. But anyway, as a doctor, you just do your fucking job and you deliver the baby. If I was a doctor, not breaking HIPAA rules, which for those of you who don't know, who haven't gone through any kind of medical practice, HIPAA is a certain acronym that I'm not going to say because it's very confusing, but it's basically something that we use as shorthand for saying don't identify your patients in such a way that someone else can figure out who they are, because when you do that, you lose your job. There's a right to privacy when it comes to people's health care that they are privy to have. That's their privilege, that's their right. And if you as a medical professional break that right, break that privacy, you lose your job. You lose your license. You can never work again. Of course, it goes under investigation. But if it's very blatant, like a doctor telling a lot of people that his patient had an orgasm during birth, which isn't actually violating HIPAA, by the way, but if he says the name of the person or if he identifies a person in such a way that someone else can figure out who it is, yes. But I would feel like breaking HIPAA would be the easiest fucking thing to do with that patient, because that's going to live on for the rest of your life as a doctor. Hearing a woman giving birth not screaming, which is normal, but moaning I didn't say that she moaned, but I imagine if she's orgasming, there are visible signs typically when someone orgasms. I'm not even going to go over the signs, but I, I just can't I just can't wrap my head around it. I mean, you could probably wrap your hand around it because she's so loose. Oh, sorry. Oh God. Um, but no, I wanted to go over the story because it was so fucking absurd. It's like, not only that, but if you go further into the article, if you do ever want to look it up, just literally look up the title. You know, I had an orgasm during labor. I didn't want to stop. But apparently, there is someone who's helping train pregnant women to orgasm during pregnancy. Not pregnancy, but during birth, to basically make it an experience where you're not in pain, you're more in pleasure, or there's like a mix between, so it numbs out the pain. I guess do what you gotta do, but I would say just keep it to yourself at this point. Like, your kids are gonna just no. Your kid is gonna get made fun of, especially if he's a guy. Okay, the first girl you made come is your mom. That would be just fucking brutal. Don't tell anyone. I would just don't tell anyone. I would say if and of course now I have the picture of the woman here. Let's see if I can. Oh well, that was fun. This person is the one teaching pregnant women to orgasm during childbirth. I get it. I get it. I don't give birth to children. I can't. I will never understand the pain. I had to bring it up, and I'm probably gonna bring it up whenever Austin and I are able to do a podcast together again, because that is the weirdest fucking story I've read in a long time. And I don't read. Oh yeah, Elon finally bought Twitter. Woohoo! Fired like 3,400 people, probably useless people. Multiple boards that didn't really make sense. Like, if you're such a large platform, why do you need a moral and ethics board? And why do you need to hire so many people in that moral and ethics board? There's other categories of job positions that didn't make a lot of sense. There's typically always a diversity, inclusion, and equity department, which may sound good, but if you're in the business world, it's basically a bullshit department inside of an organization to protect itself from any kind of woke culture backlash. Which, if you don't know what that is, I would say look it up. Oh yeah, apparently, or at least allegedly, the tomb of Cleopatra has been discovered the last few weeks, which is interesting. From the pictures, it appeared that the tomb was submerged underwater. So, yeah, I guess if she used to be, I believe she used to be revered as one of the most beautiful women on planet Earth. Certainly a very powerful woman too. So that's interesting. Oh yeah, there's something I also wanted to talk about on this stream. Last stream that we had, I was with Austin. It was a couple weeks ago, and the stream got completely removed off of YouTube. And the problem I have with YouTube right now, and I think a lot of people have this problem too, especially content creators, is they don't apply the rules equally to everyone. For example, there's been a recent scandal by which most people know this person as a YouTuber. Jacksepticeye posted a video. Markiplier posted a video of the same video game, and this other streamer or YouTuber that I never watched, they all posted basically the same video game. Only one of them got a strike because it had a content inside of this video game called, I believe, The Mortuary Assistant, by which it had suicidal themes. All the same video games that they're playing through, the same scene that was told to this one person, that's why the strike happened. But Jacksepticeye and Markiplier's were completely fine. It seems to be that the moderation at YouTube, meaning those who go through all the content on YouTube, either the algorithm or personal, isn't being applied equally to everybody. That certain people are able to progress very quickly on the platform. All of their videos that they make, everyone sees in their feed. And then there's other channels that are very, very popular, and then they go out of existence, just gone. YouTube right now is such a, I don't know, not divisive is not the right word. It's so inconsistent that I don't feel like we should really use it to stream anymore. I understand there's a lot of people on this platform, but 2 weeks ago we made a stream watching not Cyanide and Happiness, but it was ASDF movies, I think is what it's called. And I get it. It may not have been fair use. I understand we may have stepped over that line, but no warning was really given to us on our end, and we can see multiple different windows. Nothing was given. All we saw was at a certain time when we looked over at the screen, our stream seemed to have force ended. And whenever I looked on YouTube to find the stream, I, as a content creator, couldn't even go into manage videos and see the live stream itself. It was completely wiped off of YouTube. If I posted edited content to YouTube, it would be forced into unlisted, and I would have to fix the issue of the copyright strike. This live stream was completely deleted off of YouTube. I can't even access it anymore. And I would say it's completely unfair to a content creator to completely wipe out it was 1.5 hour video, completely wipe that out because of a 10-minute segment in which we were watching a certain video. It's so unfair. You should at least contact us first, as the platform that they are. Contact us first so that we can fix the problem. Or if, let's say, the channel wants, either wants us to stop or wants to take action, whatever, you name it, we can then abide by whatever they want. Or we can reject whatever they want. But right now, YouTube has decided to step in, and I think that they stepped in with us because we cuss a lot. So we're already probably in a negative when it comes to the YouTube algorithm, as well as YouTube as a whole, the company. Because we cuss so much, monetization is much more difficult. The jokes that we tell are unacceptable. The words we say, which there is a list of probably about 1,000, 2,000 words that if you say, your video will either be shadow banned, which is the action by which I post this video, no one can see it on their feed, even though they should be able to see it on their feed. Let's say they're subscribed, they've hit the bell icon, right? And if I post a video, they get no notification that I'm now live streaming, or I started live streaming, and they get nothing in their feed about my video. That's called shadow banning. With everything else being as consistent, meaning you post a video every single day, you've been consistent, and now your traction is just dived, or dove, I should say. YouTube plays these stupid fucking tricks, and I would love nothing more than for YouTube to do either one of two things: leave Google and become what it was once was, and kind of be a little bit of the Wild West. Whichever had the most views would go to the top. The algorithm wouldn't really do that. If you're subscribed to someone, you would see their content, but just have the most popular video win, and maybe even separate it by categories. Bring it back to what it was, because right now YouTube is soulless. It is completely soulless. There's no changing my mind on that issue. And if that doesn't happen, I would love nothing more than for YouTube to fall, because it's completely ridiculous that we weren't notified. We weren't notified at all. We had to figure it out on our own. We were talking probably for about 20 minutes, not knowing that the live stream was ended and that it was completely deleted. So, yeah, that was fun. So, taking this time to speak out against YouTube, yeah. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, that aren't content creators and haven't watched anyone or any content creator that's been struggling with it, you don't know. And YouTube's pretty hush-hush about it. Oh, One thing that I'd like to say that will contribute likely to the demise of YouTube um, is I would love nothing more than for everyone to install a web browser. It's just known as Brave, and it's not necessarily a web browser. When you download Brave, you have the option to either use their web browser or you can use whatever web browser you want to. You could use Google Chrome. But when you use it, it's an ad block. So when you're on YouTube, if you watch my video, which I watch so many videos a day, I have not seen a YouTube ad play on a YouTube video in well over a year, and it is completely free to me. And it's completely free to you. It's just called Brave. If you look up Brave, let's just say Brave web browse, download, whatever, and you find the right one, if you download that, you can still set Chrome as your original, and you can watch YouTube that way, even on your phone. Let's say you just go into the Brave. It's a little bit to get used to the different dynamics of how the videos stream, how they upload, and all that kind of stuff. That's up to you whenever you get into that, as far as the phone is concerned. But if you're going to watch YouTube and you don't want to watch 7 unskippable ads at the very beginning of the fucking video, please, for the love of God, download Brave so that one by one, as people do that, and I understand it's asking a lot, even though it's completely free to you, and it probably only take you 10 minutes to set up, and it'll save way more than 10 minutes of your life. In fact, because I have Brave, it'll tell me how many hours or how many minutes I've saved. I've saved 1 hour. I've saved 1 hour of my life. This isn't even from the time I first started or downloaded the browser. But I've saved over an hour of my life not having to watch ads, not having to see ads, not having to scroll through, let's say, like something like Pinterest, where you're not Pinterest, but any kind of like cooking instruction for a meal. You have to scroll through so many fucking ads before you get to the point where you're like, okay, this is the ingredients they take. When you download Brave, you can not only eliminate all those ads, and it squishes the page to where now it's like a readable little pamphlet that you can follow, like as if it is a cookbook that your mother has prepared for you. But you can even do something else. You can say, just give me the text for a certain page. Let's say you're reading an article and there's a ton of ads or pictures. You can shrink it to just text. And because of that, it makes it more digestible. It's so much more usable. Like if I'm on YouTube and you've watched us play YouTube videos, when we play YouTube videos, you don't see any ads. It's not because I have any kind of YouTube Premium. That's because I've downloaded the Brave. It's not a browser because technically it's a Google Chrome, but you can call it a browser at this point. I think it's easier. But I don't have to wait for an ad. I don't have to watch through an ad to start a video. And I don't have to watch a million fucking ads throughout the video or at the end of the video. Because I have Brave. And if everyone, and as one by one, each person does this and tells a friend, the more people that do that, either one or two things happen. YouTube begins to fail. They have less ad revenue because no one's watching the ads. Or YouTube gets smart and they develop some kind of software to prevent any kind of ad block on their videos, whatever you name it. They implement an app by which you have to download if you're going to watch YouTube. They completely remove themselves off of Google Chrome or any kind of web browser. They would never do that. But if everyone today downloaded Brave and did it that way, you'd remove all of the ad revenue from YouTube, which I think would fare better for even, let's say, the top few people, let's say PewDiePie or MrBeast. Most of their ad revenue or most of their money is not made off of ad revenue anymore. It's made off of merchandise or some kind of product. They sell shirts or they sell energy drinks or they sell something. You don't make that much money from the ads anymore because, and you shouldn't rely on it. You used to be able to rely on it, but you can't anymore because all that has to happen is you spend multiple hours developing and producing a video, and you publish it, and one little thing out of the video completely demonetizes it, you no longer make money off of that video, even though ads show on that video. Which means that YouTube is incentivized to demonetize videos. Because if I demonetize it, they don't get any of the cut. I get all of the cut. So I want to find reasons to demonetize them. And I think that they've been doing this in such a way that they're not overly doing it to where you leave, but they're doing it just enough to where they're getting a lot more money from that deal. I think that there should be multiple lawsuits against YouTube on this front, because so many people have suffered damages as a result of this completely inappropriate, completely inconsistent policy. Let me see. And there's one last thing that I want to end on. It's kind of roughly in the same category. Very roughly. I don't know if anyone saw this, but recently, Henry Cavill, there's been a lot of recent news about Henry Cavill. For those of you who don't know, the man by his name, you may know him by his roles. He played The Witcher in the Witcher series, and he also played, or Gerald, not Gerald, but Geralt of Rivia. And he also played Superman, or Man of Steel, he's the most recent Superman. He's decided to leave, and he's no longer the Witcher in the Witcher series. He's no longer Geralt of Rivia, I think. And the reason for it, or at least the suspected reason, is that Henry Cavill is very much so into video games, and I believe he's played through the Witcher series. He understands the lore of it all. He understands what the Witcher can do, what he can't do, what the main focus of the storyline is. He understands what the lore of the games were, what the storyline was. And because he was so focused on that, I think that he butted head with the writers that care more about other fucking things. Like, focusing on Yennefer, right? Yennefer is a minor character. I only played the first part of The Witcher 3. I didn't really enjoy the game. Too steep of a learning curve for me. It wasn't enjoyable. I played for like 3 hours, and I was still like, okay, what button does what? Where the fuck am I going? What the fuck am I doing? But Yennefer was a very minor character. Not only that, but she was very white. Which I really don't give a shit about casting anymore. It's just beating a dead fucking horse to be upset about who they cast as who and why and all this fucking bullshit about, making Ariel, casting Ariel as, I don't know her race necessarily, but anyone other than a redhead, really. Not casting based off of the original content. It seems to be one-sided. You only cast for originality if it has to be, if it's one race, or if it's multitude of classes that are perceived as being a minority. But if you're in the majority, or if the character's in the majority, we have to change the race. There's that, two-faced part of that culture that I don't really give a shit about. What I care about is movies and shows today care so little about the story that they tell, care so little about the lore behind the whole series. They care so much about things that don't matter in this world, that don't matter for a story. They would rather, take for example, the new Lord of the Rings series from Amazon. They focused so heavily on what they were to provide as far as their diversity of cast that they pissed off all of the, you can call them Tolkien fans, the man who originally wrote the books, The Lord of the Rings, that brought about this universe of content that was produced into a movie later on that brought a lot of people into the whole fantasy world.
in a way that it developed a story that everyone enjoyed, even though the movies were so long, hours long, like 3 hours long, some of them. Amazon decided to make it shallow, to make it about things of this time that matter too much to people instead of making it about a story that people can watch and want to watch. Instead, they made it about girl power. They made it about developing characters into characters that they aren't, throwing away lore, throwing away titles of characters, such as, instead of calling them hobbits, you call them half-foots, I think is what they call them. I didn't watch the show. It's not something that I didn't even really watch The Lord of the Rings until I was like 17, 18 years old, and I maybe only watched it 4 or 5 times. I can't watch something for that long. Good movies they are, but it's a long time to watch those movies. But what I want to get at is, and I've been beaten at this for such a long fucking time, especially the people around me understand that this is my main grievance with what is going on in the world right now, is not what's going on in Russia or in Europe, what's going on in today's politics. What I care more about now is that art is dead. It is. Everything's a repeat of a repeat of a remake of a redo of a reshoot of a remake. Just nothing is original. Nothing is creative. And I don't think that a culture built up upon making remakes is sustainable. It should never be that what would seemingly be a mediocre film, if released during a time where films were all original, is one of the best movies. Like, let's say Top Gun Maverick, right? Relatively traditional, kind of American pride kind of movie, very patriotic, very stereotypical in its direction, in its theme, in its build of the story, very traditional. If that movie is seen as being the best movie of the year by most people, it means that most of the other movies are just not blowing you out of the water, because art is dead. Music sounds the same. It's all the same beat tracks. It's all the same fucking notes. It's all the same chords. It's all the same fucking lyrics. They're not talking about sex. They're talking about parties. They're not talking about parties or sex. They're talking about falling in love, falling out of love, being depressed, being on drugs, getting out of drugs. It's like, it's all the fucking same. All the pop songs are all the fucking same. And let's say it's not the same between two artists, which I would argue that it is still the fucking same between two artists. I can listen to some songs, like one of them was, it was the same beat and melody to I'm Blue that came out in, I believe, the early 2000s, if not the late 90s. I can't remember how old that song is. But they came out with the song with the same fucking melody. And they keep doing this shit, where they're trying to beat at your fucking nostalgia in your mind, that they don't even write their own fucking music anymore. You know, each fucking sorry, I keep saying fucking a lot. Each artist keeps releasing music that sounds exactly the same as the music that they once released, but with slightly different lyrics, even though they're saying the same thing. It's boring, it's dull, and I wish it would all change. So thank you all for joining, if you did join. If you'd like to see more content like this, please let me know. You could shoot a comment. I would probably be able to fucking read it, considering we're such a small channel. You'll never hear either me, my friend, or my brother ever say that you should. We'll never say this, and I'm not saying it in this moment, that we will not push you to like, subscribe, and we will not beat that dead horse on you. So if you want to come and watch content that isn't constantly barraging you about what you should do to the channel or what button you should hit, I don't give a shit. If you like our content, if you like watching our content, then you'll do all that regardless of what I say. You don't need that directive. So if you want to feel welcomed in a place, we crack jokes, we make fun of each other, we make fun of you occasionally. If you want to see more content like this, again, comment. That's the only thing that I will probably advocate that you do, because it really does bring a lot of joy in my life to be able to read them, be able to answer them, especially as we're a small channel. We're able to get to everybody because we rarely get comments. But long story short, thank you so much for watching if you did watch.